We can talk a little bit more about the pieces.
Sure, that's always interesting. The Gilles stool from the Italian factory that you saw, the little model. We also have a table lamp version of it. And this is a cast bronze and travertine lamp with Ghent, inspired by Ghent, Belgium, where Van Cronenberg, where we met Peter and Regine. It's a really wonderful piece. I don't know if you saw, but the edge, we also have a torchère floor lamp version, which is amazing and just incredibly, the presence is fantastic.
We wanted to do sort of more intimate pieces as well, so we've got some smaller accessories. The letter opener is named after a really extraordinary artist named Rose van der Veld, who's in the product design world herself. She's sort of an elf.
She truly is a fairy house.
Yeah, she has a fairy house.
And so she does mainly porcelain work, so I don't know if anyone works with Seracs, but they do really plates and make restaurant ware. And so she has a collection with them. But we went to her house and she served us apple cider out of little porcelain cones that you couldn't put down anywhere, and it truly,
duck feet.
And had an elf door. It was very much a fairy house, and a staircase up to her studio that you couldn't even. No one would have been allowed it to happen in the States because there was no railing, and you could fall to your death. But that's where she worked, and she was really, really wonderful, and gave us this handmade book of. She made the paper and printed and did everything. It was just a remarkable experience. So because of her paper, we made the letter opener for her. This stool is wonderful.
This is actually interesting. We had been talking about this earlier, as David was saying, that the challenge that they presented to us of giving them the whole sense of space, a room, when they said to us, okay, so you've got all of these designs, how do you envision them working together? And we came back to them with these renderings. It was in that process that we found there were spaces, there were things missing, and this is a piece that we created to fit into that space.
And we wanted there to be a curatorial aspect to it, so that we weren't creating just one thing that would feel like a showroom. It needed to feel like a designer had curated a space that worked and played together. So this is a little more rock and roll than some of the other pieces, but we're really proud of it. And so it's a leather fringe, and the leather is knotted, and there are bronze coins and then beads, and the coin edge frame is really lovely with the black leather seat.
And it is fun to spin it around.
And it sits well.
Yeah, it does sit well.
Doesn't wobble. So these pieces were inspired by time in Paris. I know it's completely rote to say that travel, everyone says it, we all say it, but just the Art Nouveau architecture in Paris and the details and the curves, and so these pieces came out of that, as did the Ophelia sofa in the back, which is our take on a demi-lune, but with this cantilevered seat, which we think is so wonderful and actually sits really beautifully. Rare that a sculptural piece with a tight back and tight seat like that is actually a really nice sit, and it is. It's a great footprint.
They also worked to give us repetitive elements to tie some of these pieces together. And in this situation, on these Colette ottomans and poufs, and also on the Ophelia sofa, that has this beautiful cerused oak at the bottom level with this gorgeous reveal of this perfect little antique brass material. They sent us traveling and sourcing with these little teardrops of metal, and there were 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 8, I don't remember how many finishes there were. Tormented the hell out of me. But ultimately, I ended up having to cut all of these little had the factories where I was leaving them cut them in half so they would have a little piece to keep behind. So they're all marked on the back like SVB and TXY, and once you cut them in half, you lost all the identification on the finish.
Well, all of the designers know the things that we love in our libraries, especially solid bronze pieces and really wonderful wood pieces, we hate to part with them because you want to use them again and again and again, but we knew we weren't going to get anywhere near what we needed finish-wise if we didn't part with them. So, but then we would get calls, can we have another one of those bronze pieces? No, we can't. We gave you everything.
These products here were actually pieces we did not think we were going to be able to achieve.
Those pleats were
The
impossible.
pleats were a nightmare. As soon as you put weight on the poof and it begins to condense down, needless to say, the pleats all opened up all the way around and it looked horrible. But we did finally figure out a way to firm up the sides and the seat cushions to make it.
And they're not stitched down.
No.
So a lot of the pleated pieces that you see are stitched or have to be glued, and this is truly pleated. So it's.
Everyone who's seen these pieces really reacts very, very positively to them.
We ourselves had to do a lot of this work through photography because there's so much global traveling that happens that it was impossible to do it all in person. And when we finally did all convene together with the products, it took our breath away because the reality of them is even really sort of more spectacular than the photography.
This sofa actually comes with an added feature that underneath there, as a kid, that would have been my fort. I would have lived there.
It's a great hiding space.
As a bonus, you get a fort for the kids.
That's Eddie, after whom this console is named. Josh talked a little bit about it.
What is the material of the console again?
So it was inspired, Eddie Dunkers does extraordinary finish work. But what he's, I guess, today really most known for is his plaster work. Okay. So we were inspired by the plaster work that he does and how he's more than master of plaster or material, he's a master of light. So we were inspired.
Yeah, he could do a whole house for you and you wouldn't need a piece of art. I mean, and we say that as art fans and aficionados and makers of art, but what he does with the space is just, in a little bit of light, is unbelievable. It is art, and so.
And where is he? He's all over the world. So he's based in Belgium, but you can find him in LA, in New York, Florida, wherever you need him is where he is, really. He's a little bit like Batman. Omnipresent.
But this is actually achieved by resin.
Correct.
Yeah, the plaster would be so vulnerable that it would be something that would just be impractical.
Yes.
So getting that look with something that's resilient was the challenge, and I think we achieved it on that.
Yeah.
It's also incredibly durable.
Very durable.
The finish is very durable.
And the magic eraser, you're done. Cleans it right up.
There's a lot of really beautiful textiles in the collection as well. The pillows on the left there are actually digitally printed on suede. So it's a beige suede with a dark gray overprint, and that's some of the original art that you guys create to make that happen. Then the pillows on the right, that red pillow and those pairs are really the extent of the color in the whole collection. So it's a pretty neutral color palette throughout the collection. But that pillow really does pop, and that's also digitally printed on a poly silk fabric, and it turned out really beautiful.
And these are all embroidered.
Yeah, those pillows are all embroidered.
You know, so all the artwork that is on the textiles, the rugs, the ceramics, are all paintings that we've done that are incorporated into the design.
It's amazing what they can do these days with digital printing, whether it's on bamboo silk or on cotton or on satin or velvet or suede. There's a lot of wonderful uses for digital printing these days. That's marble, solid marble that's been cut and honed into these incredible boxes. And you can see the direct inspiration from the rim of that pot that the boys took to create these beautiful tazas, as Barbara Berry would call them. What do you call these? Centerpiece bowls?
Yeah.
They're very lovely. In travertine and white marble.
So this piece is I mean, we can all read what it says, but it was inspired by our now very dear friend Regine. As she was part of the transformation wall experience of Belgium. She's an extraordinary and ethereal person herself.
She sent us an email this morning saying
she did
break a leg. She's excited for it. So.
The Peter Center table is named after Peter van Cronenberg. And the work that these guys did in marquetry for us is really also quite extraordinary. You'd be hard-pressed to find a cleaner finish. This stuff is very buttery, very beautifully seamed.
We continued to, mood was a big aspect of what we wanted to do and create a sense of mood. So the Marguerite, our dining chair, it comes with this slip cover, this kind of gauzy linen slip cover that you can use or not use, but it was just to try to continue to make a story in and itself.
The tour dining table was designed after an inspiration from a bridge that was conceived by Eiffel and his partners, and that was the original inspiration for that piece. And we have the same marquetry on the tabletop, and it's a cerused oak top with solid banding, and then the marquetry at the top center.
Do y'all have any questions for us? It's always good to get some feedback both directions going here if we can. Yes, ma'am.
What's happening with prices and the tariffs? How are you guys faring?
We are having to bear it, and what we're doing is we're not putting the extra first of all, my company imports very little from China. It's not as big an import aspect. In fact, I don't think anything from the Form Design collection is made in China. Just as an example, we have so many sources outside of China that we're not dependent upon China. But we do have some really popular Chinese products, and what we're doing is we're taking our regular markup on whatever the costs are, and then we're simply adding that whatever the duty happens to be on that item to the price. We're not multiplying the price with the duty included. So the duty is a separate entity that gets stuck onto the price at the end. And maybe one day, who knows, it'll go away. But for this moment, we're living with it.
Again today, so.
Yes, who knows? Who knows? It's
But
really
none of
hard to
this product,
predict.
as David said, none of this product is made in China.
None of it, yeah. Anyone else have a question for us? We surely do appreciate you all coming to hear
Thank
this
you
today.
all so much. Thank you.
I would like to thank Josh and Rafi for being really good partners. They've worked really hard to make this happen, and we've worked really hard to make it happen, and I think we're all like 4 proud parents of something that really is hitting the ground looking awfully pretty. Thank you all.
Thank you, David.
Thank you all.